Hello and welcome to Whiteboard Learning Platform. My name is Anuradha Tripathi and today's session is in the continuation of the August month current affairs related to the environment, biodiversity and environment related issues. So the very first news that we will be discussing today is about the ethanol blending program. So basically Government of India have set the target about the blending of ethanol, which is the 20% of the petrol by the 2025 and 2026. Here, the objective of blending of ethanol into the petrol is related to enhance the fuel efficiency in order to in order to reduce the emission of the various greenhouse gases and therefore to protect the polluting air. So here this objective is very large. So here we will understand what is the ethanol blending program of Government of India. So there are the certain aspect which we should know about the ethanol blending. First and foremost, we need to understand the concept of the biofuels. Biofuel is a fuel which is produced from the biomass of either plant or animal waste that can be either in the solid form, which is produced from the wood, dried plant material, or the manual, or it can be in the liquid form, which can be the bioethanol or the biodiesel. And further, the another important aspect is the gaseous, which is biogas. So if we can see, this news is talking about the blending of ethanol. It means it is a liquid biofuels. If we talk about the Government of India, the target of a blending of ethanol, so the scheme of E20 blending target was launched in January 2023, that you should remember, by the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. So the nodal agency of the Government of India related to the ethanol blending target is Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, that you should remember. Initially when this program was launched, so the target was only 10% blending rate, which is also written as E10. So wherever you find the E10, it means 10% ethanol with the petrol. And the time period to achieve this target was set 2021-2022, and later on the blending of the target was increased to 20%, which is termed as E20, that was to be achieved by 2030. However, as per the report which was released by the Niti Aayog, namely Roadmap for Ethanol Blending in India 2020 and 2025, this target of 2030 is revised to the 2024, 2025 and 2026, which is this news article is mentioning. So currently the target of E20 is by this, and now the Government of India or the India is on the position to achieve this particularly target. Here you should know what is the objective or the benefit of producing or mixing the ethanol into the petrol or diesel. So here what we can understand, that if a 1 liter of ethanol is basically produced, the energy which is approximate a 2/3 of energy which is given by the 1 liter of petrol. Okay, and this ethanol which is produced from the various food article, that increase the oxygen content in the fuel, and we all know that if there is a presence of more oxygen, it will result into the better combustion of the fuel. So if the fuel is in a position to combust fully, so it will release the less greenhouse gases emission, and this ultimately reduction in the emission of the gases is related to the improving the air quality. Okay, so it will improve the combustion process, which also means that the fuel efficiency will increase. So here the larger objective is to improving the fuel efficiency plus reducing the emission. And this reducing of emission is related to air quality improvement. Okay, so particular in very specific manner, we can say it will lower the emission of the carbon monoxide and the sulfur dioxide. Here, one more thing you need to understand that depending upon the input to produce the biofuels, there are the different generation of the biofuels that we will also deal. For example, as of now, there are the four different generation. One is biofuel generation 1. This is the fuel which is directly generated from the food based article, for example rice, sugarcane, wheat or maize. If you talk about the biofuel generation 2, that is produced from rotten grains. Here the meaning of rotten grains means which is unfit for the human consumption. Human consumption. Now the third generation is biofuel generation 3, which is produced from the algae, and the fourth one is related to the fourth generation is related to the genetically modified crops. So these are the four different generations. If we talk about the production of the bioethanol in India, that is produced from, that is mentioned in the newspaper, that we'll see this specifically. Here we can see in India, the biofuel of ethanol is produced from the blending of, one is related to the maize, then the damaged grain, then the third is the surplus rice, then the fourth is specifically related to the sugarcane. So sugarcane products in terms of decreasing the sucrose content can be termed as the directly the sugarcane juice, and then B heavy molasses, and the last one is C heavy molasses. So as per the government of India is producing the ethanol from this 5 different input, which is maize, grain, which is damaged, surplus rice, sugarcane, B heavy molasses and the C heavy molasses. So this is something very important which can be asked in the question. Now we'll see the next news article, which is about the tiger reserve in news. So this news is talking about a particular tiger reserve, namely Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve, which is located in Madhya Pradesh state. Recently there was news which this special investigation team have released a report whereby the 43 tiger have been found died in this particular tiger reserve. When this news was published in the Indian Express newspaper, now the National Tiger Conservation Authority have sought the response from the Madhya Pradesh Wildlife Department. So here we should know the certain aspect related to Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve. So whenever you find any tiger reserve, national park or wildlife sanctuary in the newspaper, so you should look after the certain aspect. For example, with respect to the physiographical feature where it is located, then the district or the state, particularly the type of the vegetation, flora and fauna, and later on if any river or the national highway is passing. And apart from this, you should also look after the aspect that what makes this particular tiger reserve or the national park distinctive from others. That might be the area of questions. So now we will be discussing about that Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve. If we particularly talk about the physiographical feature, so here it is located in between the Vindhyan and the Satpura range in the Umaria district of MP. This is, you should remember. And from the initially onwards, it was never a tiger reserve. Firstly, it was declared as a national park in 1968. Later on, its status was upgraded as a tiger reserve in 1993. We all know that the project Tiger was launched in 1973 in order to conserve the specific species of tiger. So in order to protect that, various national parks have been upgraded to the status of tiger reserve. So Bandhavgarh became a tiger reserve in 1993. If we talk about the vegetation of this particularly tiger reserve, so here we can find right away from the tropical moist vegetation to the deciduous forest and the grassland ecosystem as well. So this is also important. If you talk about the variety in the flora of the vegetation, So here Saj, Dhaura, Tendu, Arjuna, Amla and Palas. This is also is very important with respect to the type of the flora in this tiger reserve is found. What makes the Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve very special, because this tiger reserve is the one and only tiger reserve not only in the India but also in the world, whereby the Royal Bengal tiger is found in the highest density. So this is the very distinctive aspect with respect to the Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve. And apart from the Bengal tiger, here the another flora fauna which is important is leopard, wild dogs, wolf, jackal, cheetal, chinkara and kausinga. So these are the all important dimension that can be asked in the exam, be it related to a location or its status and the type of the vegetation and the fauna as well. Now, the next news article is about orangutan diplomacy, that is related to the Malaysia country in the Southeast Asian region. Here, this specific species of ape is in news because as of now, the current status of under IUCN is the critically endangered. And the reason being is this ape is facing the issue of habitat destruction. And this habitat destruction again is related to the production of palm oil, over which the economy of this Malaysia, Indonesia is dependent. So for the production of palm oil, there is a large scale destruction of the forest in this country, which is creating the habitat destruction and ultimately the threat for this particularly ape species. And now the Malaysian government, what they have decided, that any country which is importing the palm oil from the Malaysia, they will send this orangutan as a tool of the diplomacy in order to conserve. However, this initiative was being criticized heavily, that instead of having a policy for the sustainable solution for this particularly ape, they are trying to release their responsibility. So now that has been changed. Now what the government is doing, that they have proposed a new proposal that will see the importer of the Malaysian palm oil as to the sponsor for one or more orangutan, whereby they can raise the fund that is going to be utilized in order to protect this species. So this is about the recent change. Here now we will see the certain aspect related to what is the palm oil and what is the specific characteristics of this ape species. So here one more thing we have to understand, this orangutan diplomacy is based on the policy of the China, which is the panda diplomacy. That you should remember, the panda diplomacy related to which country. So this is related to China, whereby the China is doing the practice of sending the pandas from the China to the other country as a diplomatic tools. But here, in order to save the species, the Malaysian government have decided this particular effort. Now we'll see the geographical distribution of the orangutan. So here this species is particularly located in the rainforest area of the island Borneo and Sumatra in Malaysia, Indonesia and Brunei. Here the Borneo is an island which is shared among the three countries, namely Malaysia, Indonesia and Brunei. If we talk about the production of palm oil, then it is the Malaysia which is the second largest producer. The number one position is held by the Indonesia. Approximately 55 to 57% of the global palm oil production is done in the Indonesia, and from 4 to 25% is produced in Malaysia. So this ranking you should know, because this article is specifically mentioning about this particular aspect. So now we will see the certain characteristics features of this ape. If we talk about the physical appearance, then this species is having the red fur, and it is the largest tree dwelling mammals and a arboreal species, which means 90% of their day active time they will be spending on the trees. And that's how we can understand that for the production of palm oil there is a reduction in the degradation of the forest, and because of which there is a habitat destruction, and in order to protect them the conservation initiative needs to be taken. And what makes the this particular ape more significant there, that their 6.4% of the genes are similar to the human beings, and because of this, that is they have also been termed as the most intelligent animals. So therefore their protection is become even more important. If we talk about the distribution of the species, so we can see Indonesian island of Sumatra, Malaysia and Indonesian part of Borneo. I have already mentioned that Borneo is an island which is shared among the three countries Malaysia, Indonesia and Brunei. If we talk about the number of the species of this particularly ape, then there are three species you should know the name. One is Bornean, another is Sumatran, and the last one is Tapo Noli. If we talk about the IUCN status, then it is termed as the critically endangered species under the IUCN Red List. So these are the certain aspects which you should know. To understand the importance of this topic, UPSC have already asked the questions not related to this particular app but related to the palm oil. So the palm oil production is one of the reason about the destruction or habitat destruction of this particular species. So that this question was being asked in 2021, which says the palm oil tree is native to Southeast Asia. This is wrong, because this tree is native to West Africa. However, this palm oil was introduced introduced by the Britishers in the Southeast and particularly Indonesia and Malaysia during the 70s decades, and so that's how the statement is wrong. Next statement is palm oil is a raw material for some industry producing the lipstick and perfume. This is also right, and this palm oil can also be used to produce the biodiesel. That is also right. We have seen one article related to the ethanol production. These two statements are right. So here the answer is option number B. So you should know this palm oil is not native to Southeast Asia. However, it was introduced by the Britishers in this Southeast Asian island country. Now, the next news is about, we have seen that the Tripura have also faced the issue of flood, and that too particularly on the river, Gomati river, and there was a dam which was in news, which is about the Dambar Dam. Here, apart from the Tripura, there is a heavy flood in the Bangladesh also, which have put the allegation that the Indian government has deliberately released the water from this particularly dam, which have resulted into the floods in the Bangladesh region. However, the Ministry of External Affairs have clarified that the flood that have hit the several districts in the Bangladesh, that is not triggered by the release of water from this particularly dam. So here we find the two aspects in the news. One is about the Gomati river and another is about the Dambar dam. So we'll look after the certain aspect. So if you talk about this particularly project that was commissioned in the 1976 in order to produce the electricity, which is also shared with the Bangladesh. Now we'll see about the river Gomati. Sometime you will find the spelling of this river in the newspaper as a Gomati, river Gomati, Gumati or Gomati. So you should not confused with the river Gomati, which is a tributary of Ganga river, and on the bank, nearby the bank of Gomati river, the capital city Lucknow is located. So you should not get confused with these two similar names. If we talk about this Gomati river of a state of Tripura, and it is flowing in the Bangladesh through the Komilia district of Bangladesh. If we talk about the source, so Dambur Lake in the Tripura, India, this is the source of the Gomati river, and the length is approximately 150 kilometer. So during the course flows which flow in the southward direction through the Tripura and India, it enters into the Bangladesh and it joins the Meghna river. If you talk about the tributary of this, then Raima, Manu is the left bank tributaries and the right bank is Deo and Kovai. So this river, this tributary is very important, that you should remember. Now the most important aspect about this tributary is the project, because of which that is in news. So one is the Gomti hydroelectric project, which is about the Dambar dam, which generate the hydroelectricity power in the Tripura. And I have already mentioned that the Bangladesh also receive approximate 40 megawatts of electricity from this project. So here the electricity which is generated from this particular project is shared with the Bangladesh as well. And apart from this hydroelectric project, the another project which is located is irrigation project that support the irrigation for the agriculture in the Tripura state of India. So these are the certain aspects related to this river. Now the next news article is about the Gir National Park and the Wildlife Sanctuary. Here this is in news because the government of Gujarat have decided to install cameras in and we'll see, to install the cameras and speed monitoring system in order to protect the species, in order to protect the species and the habitat of Asiatic lions. So Gir National Park is the only habitat for the Asiatic lions, so the surviving habitat. So here the objective is in order to prevent the death of the wild animals and to ensure the safety of the human beings. So now the government of Gujarat have decided to install the high-tech speed monitoring system as well as the thermal and optical camera that is going to be a stretch approximately 1 kilometer in the state highway 26. So here you should remember that the state highway 26 is passed through the Gir National Park. So here now we'll look after the certain aspect related to the Gir National Park. So Gir National Park is also termed as the Sasan Gir. This is the another name of Gir National Park and Wildlife Sanctuary. If you talk about the location, so this is about the Junagadh district of Gujarat. Initially it was sanctuary in 1965, but later on it is declared as the national park in 1975. Sorry, sanctuary in 1965 and national park in 1975. So what makes this Gir National Park and the Wildlife Sanctuary significant? Because it is only natural habitat of Asiatic loin. If you talk about the Gir forest is the largest. If you talk about the vegetation aspect, so the Gir forest is the largest compact tract of dry deciduous forest in the semi-arid part of the western India. Here the meaning of deciduous is the tree will shed their leaves during dry season. So this is what the meaning of deciduous forest. If you talk about the group of the people specifically residing in this particularly national park, then this Gir is often linked with the Maldhari, who are religious pastoral community who have been living since the ages in a symbiotic relation with the Asiatic lions. So this is very important aspect related to the Gir National Park. So this was all about the today's session. Thank you so much.